Hey everybody, and I'm Imani, your astrological holistic life coach, and today I'm talking about the full moon in Virgo on the 2nd of April 2026. So this full moon isn't going to let you stay comfortable because it's in Virgo. Virgo-ness can like perfectionism, but the full moon in Virgo, it's a full moon, so it's all about release, right? So it's wanting us to let go of the things that are getting in the way of our goals. And it's also called the pink moon, which I'm going to tell you a bit more about later. But ultimately, it's named after the wild flower, the pink moss, which blooms early in spring, and it's also called the sprouting moon, but I'm going to tell you more about this later. So there's 4 chart patterns, transiting patterns. We've got 2 T-squares, a grand trine and a grand cross, and 5 Sabian symbols, all speaking the same language. And we've also got the Virgo Pisces axis, the moon's in Virgo, the sun's in Pisces at full brightness. So this full moon in Virgo asks us to focus and be precise about the things that we've been keeping vague. So in a nutshell, to be clear, to get clear on the things we've been uncleared about, so if you process everything through analysis, for you, this can mean turning feelings into problems to solve, emotions into data to organise, pain into a project you can manage. This full moon says stop, right? The moon in Virgo wants discernment, wise judgment, but it's also squaring Jupiter and the ascendant, which means your usual analytic approach is creating more confusion than clarity, or you've been quietly disappointed in something, a relationship, a direction, a version of yourself that isn't delivering what you thought it would. So the Sabian symbol for Mercury at the 21st degree of Aquarius is literally a woman disappointed and disillusioned. That's not a poetic metaphor, that's Dionysic, identifying the problem. The disappointment is real and it's asking to be named. Maybe, you've been running away from a conclusion, not physically but internally, running away from what you need to do to get rid of or to move on. Maybe it's ending a relationship, a career, running from a conclusion that you've already reached but don't want to admit. Maybe it's about a person, maybe about a path, and the moon making a sextile square, which is a 135 degree friction aspect with Uranus at 127 degree applying, and I'm going to go deeper into the aspects later, but this just means that the friction is building and Uranus in Taurus disrupts what you thought was stable, right? So maybe you're carrying something in your body that your mind hasn't caught up with yet, tightness in your throat, tension in your shoulders, and a heaviness that has no rational explanation. The body knows. The full moon illuminates, puts a spotlight on what the body's been trying to tell you. Or, you've been carrying someone else's disappointment, absorbing their disillusionment, their loss of faith, taking on their dissatisfaction as if it's yours to fix. And, as I'm speaking now, there's a lot kicking off in the world. There's a lot of war, tension, craziness going on. So, we can lose faith, but this full moon and the quincunx between the moon and Mercury says your mind and your feelings are speaking different languages right now. Translation is required, and not only that, make sure that the language that you're picking up, what you say you believe, is actually your own and not coming from someone else's loss of faith and disillusionment. And if you're feeling loss of faith from your own observations of the world, questioning that and seeing how you can bring a bit more hope in your life, even though it can seem like hopeless in the world in terms of all the fighting that we're doing across the nations and all of that. For some of you, maybe you're stretched too thin, burnt out, pulled in too many directions at once, trying to be everything for everyone whilst having nothing left for yourself. And the Grand Cross, which is 4-way tension, involves the moon, the sun, Jupiter and the ascendant. That's internal feeling represented by the moon, identity represented by the sun, sun and expansion and growth represented by Jupiter, and how you're seen represented by the ascendant, all in friction and tension, right? And you're being asked to choose, not perfectly, not permanently, but for now. What actually matters, right? Is it your identity? You need to grow how you're seen, or your feelings, right? And the swimming race, which is the Sabian symbol for the 19th degrees of Virgo, where the moon is, isn't about winning. That's what it's reminding us. It's about knowing your lane and swimming in it well. Stop competing in races that aren't yours, as well as stop fighting in races or stop fighting in fights that are not yours as well. So this is the summary version. So there's about 5 to 7 minutes left of it, and then I'm going to go down into each thing layer by layer. So ultimately, this full moon is asking you not to become less skilled. It's about stopping the performance of skill, about letting your hand serve something other than your need to be seen as valuable. And we've got the moon in that chakra of Hasta, and this is the hand mythology, which I'll go into deeper in a while. It's about, letting those hands, as I said, serve something other than your need to be seen as valuable. And Mercury is in double strength, because we've got it in the Virgo and Gemini Navamsa, which is Hasta, part of 3, which is ruled by Gemini and Mercury rules Virgo, right? So maybe you're brilliant at translation, communication, making things work, but brilliance has become a cage. Maybe you've become so good at fixing things that you started treating yourself like a problem to be solved. And the sun in Revati, Natsakra, part of 27, which is backed by Jupiter's and Sagittarius's dharmic fire, says clearly, you're not a problem, you're a cycle completing. Something in you has run its course, a way of relating to your own competence maybe, relating to another person, a career, whatever, a belief that your worth is earned through you being useful to others, right? A story about what your hands are for. And the full moon asks, what are you manifesting with your hands that you no longer seek with your heart? What skill have you perfected that's becoming a hiding place? What would you teach if you stop needing to sound like you know what you're talking about? And what has precision, being focused, maybe to burnout extent, become a substitute for? Maybe it's become a substitute for present. So now I'm just going to talk about the essential in further dates, the degrees and what's happening. So as I said, it's a full moon in Virgo on the 2nd of April at 3:12 GMT time. The moon's in the 19th degree of Virgo and the sun's in the 19th degree of Pisces in Vedic astrology, which I use. And then in terms of the full moon, if you live in Pacific and you're on PDT time, it happens at 8:12 on April the 1st. If you live and you in mountain time, NDT, it happens at 9:12 p.m. on April the 1st. CDT time at 10:12 p.m. April the 1st. Eastern time at 11:12 p.m. on April the 1st. Central European time at 5:12 a.m. On the 2nd of April. And if you live in India or Australia, it happens at 8:42 IST Indian time and 2:12 p.m. Australian Eastern time, and the 2nd of April as well. So as I said, the moon's in Hasta, part of 3, and is ruled by Gemini Jupiter, and the sun's in Revati, part of 1, and it's ruled by Jupiter and Sagittarius. So the Sabian symbols are the moon at the 19th degree of Virgo, and that has the symbology of a swimming vase, and that rules the asparagus, was about to say esophagus in the human body. I'm going to leave that in. And then the sun is at the 19th degree of Pisces, and this has the Sabian symbol, a master instructing his pupil, and this rules the extensor muscles of the lower leg. And Mercury is at the 21st degree of Aquarius, and this has the Sabian symbol, a woman disappointed and disillusioned, and this rules the T10 and T11 spinal nerves. And Uranus is at the 5th degree of Taurus, and this has the Sabin symbol, a window at an open grave, and this rules the pharyngeal cavity of the throat and the north nodes in the 14th degree of Aquarius, and has the Sabin symbology, a train entering the tunnel, and rules the left tibial artery in the human body, right? So, as I said, we've got a T-square number 1, with the moon, the ascendant in Sagittarius, and the sun and Saturn in Pisces at 30 degree orb tightness. Then we've got a T-square number 2, between sun, moon and Jupiter at 10%, and then the grand trine between Mercury in Aquarius, Jupiter in Gemini, and the midhaven in Libra at 43% orb tightness, and then the grand cross between the moon in Virgo, the ascendant in Sagittarius, the sun in Pisces, and Jupiter in Gemini at 17%. And then we've got quite a few aspects. So we've got the moon making a quincunx to Mercury, and this brings our attention to the mind body, speaking different languages and having to unite those. The moon's making a square to Jupiter, and this wants us to grow using good judgment and grow in spite of, not having the best judgment right now. The sun also makes a square to Jupiter, and this is showing us that our identity, our self-expression, is under pressure to grow from past heartbreak and discomfort and our comfort zone in general, because often we get into our comfort zone, we don't want to leave them, and this can stop us from becoming all we want to be, going against ourselves. Then we've got the moon making an opposition to Saturn, so in that weight, our burdens can be lifted, and the lesson remains. So to keep hold of the experience and what it taught you, but to let go of the pain and the heartbreak if you can, or start or continue that work. The sun making a conjunction to Saturn brings routine, structure and purpose, allowing us to find alignment between our mind, body and soul. And we've got the moon making a sextile square to Uranus, and this is bringing friction, shaking loose what's stuck. So it's bringing tension but allowing us to move past it if we acknowledge it. The moon's also making a biquintile to the moon's north node, so this brings karmic gifts through mastery of details, through getting clear, not being vague, not pretending we don't know what to do, all of that. We've also got the moon making a square to the ascendant, so this allows us to get clear on our inner feelings and what they truly are and what we project ourselves to be, bringing both of them more into alignment. And then the sun square to the ascendant, again bringing to our attention who we are versus who we present ourselves to be, and trying to close that gap. So we've got two aspects closing the gap between us being real and fake, right? And then we've got the sun making a big quintile to the midhaven, so allowing us to be more creative in our public sort of roles, and finding the public channel for our energy. So I said earlier that this is a pink moon, so I'm just going to talk about how it influences the full moon in Virgo. So the pink moon isn't actually pink. Disappointing. But anyway, the name comes from the pink round pollets, as I said earlier, the wildflowers that bloom in early spring across North America, carpeting the earth in delicate colour just as this lunar cycle arrives. So the traditional names for this moon include the sprouting grass moon, the egg moon and the fish moon, each reflecting the seasonal awakening happening on earth as nature shakes off winter's grip in the northern hemisphere, right? In various mythologies, this spring moon carries potent symbolism. So in Anglo-Saxon tradition, it was called the seed moon or growing moon, marking the critical planting season when communities' survival depended on getting seeds into the warming soil. Some indigenous traditions associated it with the return of fish to spawning grounds and the reappearance of ground animals from hibernation, fertility and abundance themes that run deep through April's lunar energy and through the spring and summer harvests of the autumn as well. And when this pink moon falls in Virgo, we get a fascinating tension between worlds bringing bring chaos and Virgo's need for order. So, Virgo, as I said, is ruled by Mercury and associated with the harvest goddess archetype, and it brings discernment, good judgment, analysis, and purification impulses, right? So, cleaning our space, cleaning, getting rid of the old to bring in the new. And, typically, especially if you don't like cleaning, this isn't the fun, carefree, spring cleaning energy you might expect. It's more like Marie Kondo showing up to your spring awakening, asking which new beginnings actually spark joy and which ones are just distractions dressed up as opportunities. So the sadder side of this energy, this combination can manifest as paralysis by analysis, overthinking, when you just need to do things right, plant the seeds and trust the process. Virgo's perfectionism can strangle, get in the way of the messy, imperfect fertility that the pink moon represents. There's also a potential for harsh criticism around your body, health, or productivity, just when nature is literally showing you that growth happens in its own time, not according to your optimization spreadsheets, but naturally, right? So traditionally, we were warned during the April pink moon to avoid missed opportunities because we were too busy perfecting the plan instead of actually planting the damn seed. So this full moon in Virgo is telling us to take action. You know what to do, take action. So that's the end of the summary version. If you want more depth, listen on. So now I'm going to go through it layer by layer, starting with the Nat Sakra wisdom. So the moon's in Hasta, part 3 as I said, and this is where Mercury asks you to start performing perfection, right? So it's in the Gemini and Vasa, giving it that double, Mercury energy. And Savitar, the sun god, is the deity of this Nat Sakra, and it's the sun god as motivator and, putting a spotlight on our creativity, giving us the power to manifest what we are looking for, what we seek, right? And the symbol, going back to the summary, right, is the hand, the palm, the hasta, the hand. So the nature in, the light, the langu, is swift, changeable, and skilled. So this is double Mercury energy, third part. The hand becomes the communicator, the analyst, the translator. The mind wants focus, precision. The soul wants surrender, and these are not compatible impulses. But the catch is also, Mercury is in the full moon that opposes the sun, and, the Jupiter, Sagittarius ruled Ravati. So Hasta's Shakti is to manifest what one seeks. The third pada asks, what are you seeking? What are you looking for with your hands? What are you doing? What are you spending your time doing? Are you reaching for control disguised as service? Using your hands or your skill to avoid vulnerability. The Gemini Namvasa brings versatility, communication, cleverness, but also scattered energy, mental loops, the inability to stop editing your own life. The Sun, as I said, is in the Nat Sakra Ravati Pada 1, which is the Sagittarius Jupiter Namvasa, the 19th degree of Pisces. So the deity is Pusan, the nourisher, the protector of journeys, the guide. The Sakti is the power to nurture, to nourish and protect. The symbol is the drum, the fish swimming in opposite directions, and the nature is soft, Marudu, which is gentle, compassionate and completion. So Pada 1, brings philosophical fire to the final Nat Sakra of the zodiac. So Sagittarius Namvasa, under Jupiter's rule, asks for Dharma, truth-seeking, the capacity, the ability to teach what you've learned through the entire zodiac journey, so in your previous years before now, right? And Ravati is the completion point, the last star before the cycle begins, again at Aswini. Pusan, as a deity, guides travellers, protects the journey, and nourishes those on the path. But Pada one's Sagittarius energy doesn't rest in mystical dissolution, letting go. It wants meaning. It wants to extract teaching from the surrender. This is the guru at the end of the road, ready to pass wisdom forward. And the polarity, which is Mercury versus Jupiter energy. So the full moon creates precise opposition between the moon in Hasta, Gemini, Mercury. Analysis, skill, mental precision, communication, editing, control through, competence, expertise, skill set. And the sun in Ravati, Sagittarius, Jupiter, brings meaning, teaching, dharma, faith, expansion, letting go into larger truth. And Mercury and Jupiter are natural philosophical opposites in Vedic astrology, the 9th and 3rd house, right, in Western astrology. Mercury energy can be, surface level, technical learning to an extent, and Jupiter wants us to, use our higher learning skills. So Mercury can be seen as the foundation. I don't want to say that Jupiter's above Mercury, because Mercury has its high octaves of expression, and you couldn't be here with your North Node in Gemini learning, Mercury this lifetime coming from, the South Node in Jupiter. But in general, Mercury wants details, Jupiter wants the big picture. Mercury wants to refine and to change, Jupiter wants to expand and grow, which is kind of like the same thing, because you have to refine to grow. And Mercury wants proof and Jupiter wants faith, which is true. Mercury wants more practical details, technical, overthinking, going around in details, getting lost sometimes in the minutiae, the small details. So during this full moon, you're being asked to hold both. The illumination happens between the precision, the focus and the surrender, between the skill and the trust, between doing it right and letting it be messy but true. So ultimately, sometimes the hand can forget it's also part of the whole, it's part of your body. And Hasta, the Nasakra, is the Nasakra of the hand, the crafts person, the healer who works with skill and precision, focus. And Hasta's deity, Avatar, brings the motivating force of the sun itself, creative impulse, the power to set things in motion, to take action, to make it happen. And the T is direct, to manifest what one seeks, you doing the manifesting, not just by affirmations, but by setting a daily routine, sticking to it, having goals, meeting targets, taking practical action as well as positive thought. So, practicing what you speak. So, as I said, part of 3 is the Gemini and Vasa, Mercury ruled, getting double Mercury energy, the mind analysing the hand that's forgotten, it's attached to the body with a heart, and maybe you have been perfecting, refining, editing, making it better, making it right. But this full moon asks, what if right isn't the point anymore? Creating what I call the performance of competence, the need to demonstrate skill, not just be useful, but to be worthy of existing at all. So you keep on perfecting, refining, editing, making it better, getting lost. We can get lost in the details. But Hasta's symbol, the hand in part of 3, the hand that becomes the communicator, the gesture, the type, the craft, what you write, what you build, what you fix, what you organise. And this translates as bringing chaos into order, making the abstract concrete. And, some of you can be very good at this, It's asking you to give up perfecting, performing competence, to let go of the need to be seen as perfect and to just let it be, like I said at the beginning. So yeah, as I said at the beginning, this full moon isn't about winning, it's about knowing your lane and swimming in it well, right? And facing your home truths as well, and letting go of what needs to be let go of. The shadow of this Natsakra, this Pada, is that, we can in general, as human beings, conflate being skilled with being valuable, placing our value on how skilled we are rather than our inner worth. And it's reminding us that our hands are tired, our mind is tired, our body is tired. But maybe you can't stop because stopping feels like disappearing, and it's asking us to, give up the perfection, give up the act, and to slow down and to get real on what it is you really want. And the sun in Ravati, the guru at the end of the road, is opposite your competent, skilled, analytical moon, at the time of this full moon, in the 27th and final Naksatra. So, Prasan, the deity, is the nourisher and guide. Ravati is soft, gentle, compassionate. It's the completion of the entire zodiacal journey. The explanation before the next inhalation begins at Aswini, but this sun isn't in the mystical Pisces Namvasa, it's in the Sagittarius Namvasa. Jupiter ruled, philosophical, dharmic, truth-seeking. This is the teacher emerging from the mystery, ready to articulate what was learned in the disillusion, the letting go. The guru who can't stay silent. The sun in this pada says you've learned something through all of this, through the breaking, the surrendering, the endings, the toxicity, the addictions, whatever it is your journey has been. Now speak it, not perfectly, not edited, just true. So ultimately, the full moon brings tension between being focused, precise, technical and meaning, having faith, and the moon in Hasta wants to get it right, to be useful, to prove worth through skill, to communicate clearly, precisely, effectively, because of the double Mercury energy and, Virgo being there. And it can make us hyper aware of every flaw, every gap, every place where we could have done better, you could have done better, right? And the sun in Ravati wants you to seek more meaning, to teach from the depths, from what you've learned, right? To offer what you've actually lived, not what you hoped that you lived and what you hope you will perfect. Jupiter's influence asks for faith over proof, growth over control, dharma over performance, and the illumination of this full moon happens in the gap between these two. So you don't have to choose, you need both the hand and the heart, the mind and the body, the mind and the soul, the skill and the surrender, the precision, the organization and the mess, the chaos. But right now, the imbalance is clear. You've been leading with competence while your soul has been trying to tell you something that can't be said competently, right? Something raw, something that doesn't translate well, something that would sound foolish if you try to edit it into acceptable form, trying to conform to what others say truth should look like and all of that. So Hasta's hand, is it a tool or offering? So, Hasta means hand, and the third part that asks a specific question: what are your hands for? Are the tools for proving your worth, for maintaining control through usefulness, for performing the version of yourself that gets rewarded? Or are there offerings, extensions of something deeper, ways of touching the world that don't require perfection to have value? The Gemini Namvasa has made your hands brilliant communicators. You can translate anything. You can make the complex clear. You can fix what's broken and improve what's functional. But somewhere in all that skill, you stop letting your hands be clumsy. And it's a metaphor for life in general. It's not just about the hands. The hands is a metaphor for whatever you have been using to sow your skill, and where it has stopped you reaching for things that you want, because you're performing acceptance and wanting to be accepted by others for that skill, right? So allowing your hands to be clumsy, allowing your life to be messy, allowing yourself to reach for things that you're not sure that you can hold, new skills, getting outside of your comfort zone. And Savitar as the deity brings creative impulse, so the impulse to try new things, the spark that sets things in motion. But impulse and precision can be enemies, Impulse is messy. just getting it done. It doesn't wait for you to figure out the right way. It moves first, thinks later, and apologizes never, sort of thing, right? So Ravati is teaching that ending, completion, requires letting go. And it's the last Natsakra for a reason. It's where cycles complete, where you finally exhale, where the drum stops beating and the fish swim in opposite directions, because both are true, the ending and the beginning, the dissolution and the seed of what comes next. And the sun here in the Sagittarius Namvasa wants to extract meaning from the completion, not spiritual bypass, such as saying everything happens for a reason. Real meaning, like here's what I learned, here's what's changed for me, here's what I can teach now that I couldn't before. But you can't teach if you're still editing it. You can't offer wisdom if you're still trying to make it sound wise. Ravati Sakti is to nourish and protect, but what needs protecting right now isn't your image of competence, it's your actual truth, however unglamorous. So the Sagittarius Namvasa under Jupiter asks, can you teach from the mess? Can you speak before you figured out the perfect way to say it? Can you let your hands reach without knowing they'll land where intended, without the planning, plant them seeds, like I said when I was talking about their pink moon. So the invitation is to let your hands, let yourself be human, right? So this cycle, the full moon on 2nd of April takes us up to the new moon on the 17th of April, right? Which is also super new moon in Aries. So I'm going to give you 4 pointers. So spend, the 2 weeks between the 2nd of April and the 17th, taking one day to do something deliberately clumsy with your hands or whatever. Cook a meal without a recipe. Write a paragraph without editing. Draw something without trying to make it good. Let your hands be new at something. Watch what happens when skill isn't the goal. 2. Speak one teaching before it's ready. Something you've learned recently. Something true but unpolished. Something that would sound better if you workshopped it for another month. Say it now. Messy, incomplete, human. That's the Ravati teaching. It doesn't wait for perfect articulation. Notice the performance. Where do you reach for competence when what's actually needed is honesty? Where do you communicate to prove you're smart instead of to connect? The Gemini Namvasa loves clever, but clever isn't always true. Catch yourself performing, don't judge it, just see it. Let something complete messily. Hasta Pada 3 wants to finish things perfectly. Ravati Pada 1 knows completion doesn't require perfection, it requires letting go. What project, what relationship, what version of yourself is ready to end, not because you fixed it, but because its time is done right. This full moon in Hasta with the sun in Ravati asks you to stop performing competence and start, living, inhabiting completion. Your hands are tired from all that, precision and trying to get everything right, perfection. Let them be clumsy. Allow yourself to be clumsy in whatever way, right? For a moment, let them reach for something, or let yourself reach for something that you're not sure you can hold and do. The guru at the end of Ravati, at the end of the road, doesn't need you to be perfect. The guru needs you to be done pretending you don't already know what you know. Speak it messy. The Dharma doesn't wait for polish and refinement. Just, shout, let it all out, like the song goes, right? So now I'm going to talk about the aspects that are influencing this full moon in Virgo. So first we've got the moon making a quincunx to Mercury, and this is at 2 degrees 17 applying. So a quincunx is an adjustment aspect, two planets that don't naturally speak the same language trying to find translation. So we've got the moon in Virgo, body, feeling, instinct, what you know in your gut. Queen Quartz, Mercury in Aquarius, mind, ideas, detachment, what you know intellectually. These two are not aligned. Your body knows something your mind hasn't accepted yet, or your mind sees something your feelings refuse to acknowledge, or some other scenario, but conflict between ultimately your mind and your feelings. And Mercury at a woman disappointed and disillusioned, the sabin symbol of Aquarius, right, means that your mental clarity is sharp, very aware, very alert. We can know what we need to let go of or whatever, but it's painful to acknowledge the truth, right? And this Queen Quartz says your feelings and your thoughts are giving you different data, but both are valid and adjustment is required. So, to use this energy, write from your body, not your mind. Put pen to paper and let your hand move without your brain editing or evaluating. What does your body know what your mind has been arguing against? That's the question to ask yourself. The moon square to Jupiter and the sun square to Jupiter create the same tension from opposite sides. Jupiter in Gemini wants expansion, optimism, more options, bigger vision, and the Virgo moon wants focus, refinement, fewer things done better, and the Pisces sun wants dissolution, faith and letting go of control. The square says the expansion is creating pressure. Jupiter's optimism is making you overlook practical limitations, or Jupiter's demand for more is preventing you from doing what you already committed to with actual excellence. So the question is, what are you saying yes to? What's preventing you from doing anything well? Jupiter rewards saying no to what doesn't genuinely serve, so you have space to expand where it matters. And we've also got the moon making an opposition to Saturn at 6:40, separating. So, the peak tension between the moon and Saturn is past because it's fading. But the Saturn in Pisces, the Saturn in Pisces, opposite moon in Virgo, was the weight, the responsibility, the limitation, the reality check against your feelings. And the weight is lifting now, not gone, but no longer at its most accurate. And what remains is the lesson. You can't feel your way out of structure. You can't analyse your way out of grief. The Virgo Pisces axis asks for both precision and compassion. Saturn says the structure you need must include space for what can't be structured. And the moon sextile square to Uranus is applying, and the sextile square at 1:35 is a hard friction aspect. It's annoying, it's persistent, the kind of energy that won't let you ignore it. And the moon sextile square to Uranus at such a tight orb means something is shaking loose, is saying, no, you're not holding me in anymore, you gotta let me out. And Uranus in Taurus is disrupting what felt stable, your values, your security, your relationships, your sense of what was solid in your life, reliable, your comfort zone. And the moon in Virgo wants to organise, fix and make sense of it. But Uranus says, no, this disruption is the point. What's shaking loose needs to be shook loose, needs to be loosened, needs to be let go of. Don't rush to stabilise permanently or prematurely. Let the friction do its work. So you may notice during this time that your body is holding tension that won't release no matter how much you stretch, breathe, rest, meditate, whatever. And that's Uranus friction saying, no, you're not going to meditate or rest or do whatever. You're going to face and confront what needs confronting. It will release when it's ready, not when you decide it should release, right? So even when you take action, it may not go straight away, but it will, lift up, the energy of feeling like maybe tight or wound up or whatever, however it manifests for you. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. So the moon's biquintal to the moon's north node at 0:59 applying. So the biquintal is a creative genius aspect, talent, skill, the gift that emerges through mastery. So the moon's biquintal to the moon's north node at less than 1 degree applying is, really tight. So this means that your north node, your evolutionary direction, your higher self, your highest life path, and your instinctual emotional responses, the moon energy are in creative harmony, and the North Node in Aquarius says your destiny involves collective service, innovation and contribution to something larger than your private concerns. And the Moon in Virgo says you do that through details, through precision, through actually getting your hands on the work, doing the things that matters rather than theorizing about it, getting your hands dirty, so to speak. And the gift of this energy is that it allows you to trust that your attention to details, or learning to pay attention to details, will serve the collective. The small, precise hands-on work you do matters more than you think. You don't need grand gestures, big grand plans or anything like that. You just need to be devoted to your craft, devoted to whatever it is you want to do, right? So now I'm going to talk about the transiting aspects that the planets are making. So as I said earlier, we've got a T-square between the Moon, the Ascendant and the Sun and Saturn at 30-degree orb, and it's tension between our feelings, Moon in Virgo, our presentation, how we show up in the world, and our identity, structure and routine, which is represented by the Sun and Saturn in Pisces. So the Moon is at the apex, at the top of this T-square, taking the greatest pressure. How you feel versus how you're seen versus who you actually are. These three are not aligned, and the Ascendant in Sagittarius presents optimistic, expansive, freedom-seeking. The Moon in Virgo feels cautious, analytical, aware of limitations. The Sun, Saturn in Pisces, is dissolving structure whilst building something new. To integrate this energy, let people see the complexity of who you are. Start performing the optimistic if that's what you're doing, and face when you're actually in Virgo's judgment. The authenticity is the mismatch between your different personality expressions, not enforcing alignment, right? The second T-square between the Sun, Moon and Jupiter brings a three-way pull between conscious identity, instinctual feeling and the need to grow. All three want different things. Pisces wants to surrender, Virgo wants to improve, Gemini wants more options, right? So tapping into the different sides of you. The medicine is you don't have to choose between these or any other aspects of your personality. You can surrender to what can't be controlled whilst improving what you can, whilst staying curious about possibilities, one at a time, not at simultaneous, so sequential, like taking one step, then taking another step, looking after the need of the body, then looking after the need of the mind, sort of thing, then bringing all three together. We've got a grand trine between Mercury, Jupiter and the midheaven, 43% orb tightness, so all air, ideas, communication, social connection, intellectual clarity, all flowing easily. This energy between Mercury in Aquarius, our mind, our need for expansion, Jupiter in Gemini, and our public purpose, which is the midheaven in Libra in this scenario, right? So this grand trine says you have a natural talent here, your ideas can flow more easier, your communication can land well, your ability to think strategically and present it publicly is genuinely strong. So good for kind of selling, marketing, pushing yourself forward. But the shadow of this is that it's so easy you might not push to mastery. The gift can become complacency, comfortable laziness. So use the grand trine energy to make the T-squares bearable. Let the mental clarity support the emotional complexity, and it just draws our attention to the time and energy that we have to put into learning things, but then to sometimes know when enough is enough, putting it out there, practicing in public, not just waiting, trying to meet that elusive perfection. And the grand cross between the Moon, the Ascendant, the Sun and Jupiter at 17%, wants us to sort of try and not choose one of the different directions that we're being pulled in, as this can create either paralysis. We can't move because every direction has equal pull or dynamic balance, moving between all four with skill. So the moon in Virgo, precise feeling. The ascendant in Sagittarius represents expensive presentation in how we show up in the world, and the sun in Pisces dissolves our identity, and Jupiter in Gemini wants us to be curious about growth. And all four of these sides have legitimate demands, and none can be ignored. So what this energy is teaching us is not to resolve the tension by picking one, but to learn to move between all four of these expressions of ourselves and all the different sides of you consciously, right? Precise when precision serves, be expansive and grow when expansion serves, dissolve, let go when dissolution ending serves, be curious when curious serves, be responsible and take accountability when you need to do that, and so on and so on. The skill is knowing which mode is needed when, right? That's the skill, knowing when to switch and change and to draw on all your different skills, right? So now I'm just going to talk about the Sabian symbols in deeper layers, right? So we've got the moon at the 19th degree of Virgo, which says the Sabian symbology, a swimming race, right? And it reminds us it isn't about winning, it's about knowing your lane and swimming in it well. In the swimming race, you can't see the other swimmers clearly, because water's splashing everywhere. You're focused on your own stroke, your own breath, your own lane. You trust that if you swim your race well, the outcome takes care of itself. The moon in Virgo here says stop watching other lanes, stop comparing your pace to theirs, right? You don't know what their race looks like from the inside. You only know yours. The full moon illuminates this, asking, are you swimming your actual race, or are you trying to swim someone else's whilst pretending it's yours, right? And the body part this falls is the esophageal groove, which is part of the swallowing mechanism, how food moves from the mouth to the stomach. This is about what you're taking in, what you're digesting, what's moving through you. So notice if you're having trouble swallowing, literally or metaphorically, ask, what are you being asked to accept that doesn't want to go down? Maybe you need to stand up for it, talk about it, let it go, confront it, and the sun, Sabian symbol, is the master instructing his pupil at 19 degree of Pisces. So the master has walked this path, the pupil is learning. But here is what matters in this symbol, right? Is the instruction isn't authoritarian, demanding obedience, it's transmission. The master offers what they know, the pupil receives what they're ready to receive. This full moon asks, what are you ready to learn? Not what you should learn, not what would make you look good to have learned, but what is your soul actually ready to receive right now? So this degree rules the extension muscles of the lower leg. These are the muscles that lift your foot, that allows you to walk forward to make progress. If you're having lower leg tension, calves, foot issues, pay attention. Your body is asking what's preventing you from taking the next step. And to integrate this energy, the moon swims the race, the sun offers the teaching. Together you learn by doing your own work, not by watching others or waiting for the perfect instruction, right? Swim your own lane, take the teaching that lands, leave the rest, So Mercury's at the 21st degree of Aquarius, and this has the Sabian symbology of a woman, disappointed and disillusioned, and it's the most direct symbol in this full moon in Virgo. It's not poetic, not abstract, just disappointed, disillusioned, the loss of illusions, false beliefs, the collapse of what you thought would be different. Mercury brings this into conscious awareness. You're disappointed, what failed to deliver. The quincunx to the moon says your feelings and your thoughts are telling you the same truth from different angles. The disappointment is real. Naming it doesn't make you negative, it makes you honest. So in terms of the body, it rules the spinal nerves T10 and T11, which is your mid-back, right around where emotional pain lodges. If your mid-back is tight, cramping, constantly needing adjustment, that's where unexpressed disappointment lives. Not forever, just until you name it, right? The medicine is to remember that disappointment isn't the end. Disillusionment, loss of illusions, loss of what's fake, seeing reality for what it is a beginning. When the illusion falls away, you see what's actually there. Sometimes that's harder, sometimes it's a relief. Either way, it's real, and real is where you build from. So we have Uranus in Taurus at the 5th degree, which has the widow at the open grave. So this Sabian symbol brings our attention to the grief that can come from, sudden disruption, sudden change. The widow stands at the graveside not because she wants to, but because something real has ended and it deserves acknowledgement. And Uranus here says the ending was sudden, the loss wasn't expected, maybe not a literal death, but something you thought was stable has died. A relationship, a belief system, a version of security. The sextil square to the moon means this grief is creating friction with your daily functioning. You're trying to organize your life while standing at a graveside. Both are true. You have to acknowledge the grief, organize your life, meet your day-to-day commitments and all of that, but also, sit with your feelings. This Sabian degree rules the pharyngeal cavity in the throat, and this is the third symbol in this set with the throat related as a body part, right? So this full moon is bringing attention to our communication, and it's a double Mercury full moon in Virgo, and that's Sakura. So it's about our voice, our expression, what needs to be said. It's saying speak the grief, speak the pain, speak whatever, speak your feelings. Don't spiritualize them. Don't make them mean something. Just speak them like this has ended. It hurts. I'm standing here, sitting with it, acknowledging it. It can just be as simple as that. We've got the North Node at the 14th degree of Aquarius, so this has the Sabian symbology of a train entering a tunnel, and this is karmic, right? Because it represents your, highest self, your life direction, the North Node, where you're headed, whether you're, ready or not. And the train doesn't stop because the tunnel is dark. The train doesn't reverse because you can't see what's ahead. The train enters the tunnel because that's the track. The biquintile to the moon says your instinctual responses. The moon and your destiny, represented by the moon's north node, are working together creatively. The details matter, represented by the Virgo moon. The collective direction matters, represented by the Aquarius North Node. Both are true. Your precise, hands-on work serves the larger movement forward. In terms of the body part, it rules the left tibial artery, the blood flow to the lower leg, the same region of the sun's extension muscles, circulation, movement and flow, right? If your legs feel heavy, your circulation is poor, your movement is difficult, that's your body asking what's blocking your forward motion. To integrate this energy, the train entering the tunnel, you can't, see ahead, you can see your hands. Hasta, the hand, that's Sakura, do the work you see. The tunnel has an exit, you don't need to see it, yet you can trust that it exists, so plant them seeds, do not plan, just plant the seeds, spread them, try things, be a bit impulsive but not reckless with it in terms of blowing your whole house up or down unless that's what you want to do, right? Just trust that, an ending will come, that the harvest will come, that the abundance will come if you keep on taking practical actions, right? Not just by words manifesting, as I said earlier, right, but taking the practical actions to make whatever it is you want to build a reality. So to integrate the energy of all these 5 symbols and the 4 transiting patterns and the aspects and the Virgo Pisces axis, the moon's in Virgo and the sun's in Pisces. So it's asking you to hold multiple truths. So swim your own lane, that's the moon with the swimming based symbology, whilst receiving and teaching when it arrives, that's the sun, master with pupil, Sabian symbol, right? Do your precise work, which is Virgo energy, right? Whilst honouring what can't be measured, that's Pisces energy. Name your disappointment, Mercury, the disillusioned woman, while acknowledging honest grief, which is the Uranus symbol, the widow at the grave. Trust the tunnel, the moon's north node, whilst working what's in your hands, the Nasakra Hasta, where the moon's at. So the practice for this full moon in Virgo, name one disappointment honestly, not what you should feel disappointed about, but what you actually feel disappointed about. Write it down, say it out loud, let it be real, no matter if other people say it's silly or you feel stupid, it's your pain, you have to acknowledge it. 2, swim one race that's actually yours, not the race you think you should be swimming, not the race that looks impressive, your race. What lane are you actually in? Swim that one well. Put your hands on one thing. Start planning, start visualizing, get your actual hands on actual work. Build something, fix something, make something, has to manifest through hands-on craft. And the 4th one is let one thing be complete. What's finished that you're still carrying, not what you wish wasn't finished. What's actually done, let it be done. The Ravati nourishment comes from honouring and accepting endings, right? So now I'm going to give guidance for all 12 sun, moon and rising signs. So if you only know your rising sign, read that. If you know all 3, read all 3. So maybe your sun's in Aries, your moon's in Taurus and your rising's in Capricorn or whatever, read all 3, right? So for Aries, your 6th house has been activated. So your body's been trying to tell you something. Listen, health isn't punishment, right? Daily routine is spiritual practice. Start pushing, start tending. The small adjustments, changes matter more than, big grand gestures and heroic efforts. Start small and build daily. Taurus, create for joy, not validation. Your heart wants play. Pleasure isn't earned, it's claimed. The disappointed woman symbol says stop performing, make something messy, let it be imperfect, have fun. Gemini, your 4th house has been activated, so remember, home isn't where you think it is. Your emotional foundation needs renovation, not conversation. Stop talking about feelings, feel them. The roots need watering, not explaining. Actual presence is required. Cancer, your 3rd house is being activated, so say what you mean what you say. Local community needs your precision right now, not your nurturing. The throat symbol speaks clearly. Your voice matters. Stop softening the truth for comfort. Be clear, right? Leo, your 2nd house is being activated, so your worth isn't performative, right? The swimming race says stop comparing. You're not competing. Charge what you're worth. Keep what's yours. Security doesn't require an audience, just actual value. Virgo, your 1st house is being activated. This is your full moon, your body, your discernment, your judgment. The 4 transiting aspect patterns converge, on you, combine on you. You're not too much, you're not too critical. You're seeing clearly, trust the precision, speak it, speak your truth. Libra, your 12th house is being activated, so the unconscious knows what harmony's been hiding. Rest isn't laziness. Dreams carry diagnosis, pay attention to them. Let go of managing everyone's peace. Your own dissolution ending matters more than their comfort right now. Scorpio, your 11th house is being activated, so community isn't intensity. Collective work needs your skill, not your depth. The Grand Trine gives you social flow. Use it, lighten up. Contribute without consuming, serve without drowning. Sagittarius, your 10th house is activated, so your career asks for precision, not philosophy. The ascendant square says who you present publicly and who you are privately don't align. Let people see the actual work. Start performing vision. Do craft, do hands-on work, whatever. Craft it, tend to it, design it. Be your own architect, your own curator of whatever it is you want to bring into reality. Capricorn, your 9th house is being activated, so your beliefs need updating. The master pupil symbol applies to you. What are you ready to learn? Not what looks good. What is it that your soul needs? Travel teaches through disruption, not through comfort. So Aquarius, the 8th house is being activated. So merge without losing yourself. The disappointed woman lives in your sign. Name the disillusionment. Transformation doesn't require you to disappear. Share resources. Keep boundaries. Both matter. Pisces, your 7th house is activated, so partnership mirrors what you haven't integrated. The master teaches, but you're the master and the pupil at the same time. Relationships show you where you are dissolving, ending. When you need to focus, you need precision, right? Ground your compassion and have empathy and compassion for yourself as well as others. So the final words of this full moon in Virgo, there's a particular quality to a full moon in Virgo that people either find deeply clarifying or deeply irritating, sometimes both at once, right? Virgo is precision, focusedness, togetherness, perfection. It's the sign that notice what's wrong, what's missing, what would be better, not out of cruelty, out of devotion, deep commitment to improvement. Virgo serves, but it serves through fixing, through refining, through making things work better than they currently do. So a full moon here illuminates, puts the spotlight exactly where things aren't working. Not in theory, but specifically. The body knows, the daily routine knows. The details you've been ignoring start speaking loudly enough that you can't pretend you don't hear them anymore. This full moon sits in the Hasta, Natsakra, the hand, and Hester's deity is Savattar, the creative force of the sun, and its Sakti, its power, is the ability to manifest what you seek and place it in your hand. It's a literal manifestation, touchable, tangible results. The hand that crafts does the work, that heals, that builds. Virgo plus Hasta energy, is reminding us to get our hands on it, to put our attention to it, to start, theorizing it, to start doing, to start being, to start living. And the sun opposite in Pisces sits in Vavati, the final Natsakra ruled by Pusan, the nourishing deity who guides souls safely to their destination. And Vavati is endings and completions, the last stop before the cycle begins again. And this full moon and the Virgo Pisces axis says what needs completing so your hands are free to build what's next. The opposition between Virgo and Pisces is the tension between precision and dissolution, focus and ending, between what can be measured and what must be felt, between fixing and surrendering. Both are true. This full moon doesn't let you choose one at the expense of the other. It asks, can you be precise about your feelings? Can you surrender to what can't be fixed while still looking after tending what can? This full moon in Virgo is asking you to do something genuinely difficult, Be precise about things that can't be measured. Feel deeply whilst thinking clearly. Acknowledge disappointment while still building. Swim your own race whilst learning from the master. Put your hands on real work whilst letting completed things rest, right? The Virgo Pisces axis doesn't let you choose precision, focus or surrender. It asks for both. The full moon illuminates where you've been trying to do one at the expense of the other. Your body knows the asparagal groove, what you're swallowing, the panangual cavity, what you need to say, the spinal nerves, where disappointment lodges, and the extensor muscles, how you step forward, and the tibial artery, how blood flows toward movement. All 5 body parts are asking, what does your body know that your mind has been avoiding? So, as I said, the swimming race isn't about winning. It's about knowing your lane and swimming it well. Stop watching other lanes. Stop comparing your stroke to theirs. Swim your race. The master will teach when you're ready. The train will enter the tunnel whether you feel ready or not. Your hands already know how to manifest. The completion wants acknowledgement. Name one disappointment honestly, not dramatically, just honestly. Swim one race that's actually yours. Put your hands on one thing, let one thing be complete. That's the full moon in Virgo work, right? Not all of it, not perfect, just honest, precise, hands-on, real. The body knows, listen. So one thing, maybe two for some of you, but focus and surrender. Name one disappointment honestly, not dramatically, just honestly. Swim one race that's actually yours. So yeah, I'm Imani, your holistic astrological life coach. This has been my take on the full moon in Virgo on the 2nd of April 2026. Take care and see you next time.